Welcome back to the Skillwork Forum. I'm Mike Matlock, Vice President of Sales here at Skillwork, where we help manufacturers and industrial companies solve one of their biggest challenges, finding skilled workers they need to keep production moving.
Hey, good morning. I'm Josh Roza. I'm one of the business development managers here at Skillwork, so I get to hang out with the clients, figure out what their needs are to keep their lines running.
Welcome, Josh.
Thanks, Mike.
This is the first time we've done one of these two together.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Wasn't sincere, but I appreciate it. All right, Josh, let's jump right into it. Today's topic is the big one. The biggest pain points manufacturers are facing right now. And if you're in the industry, none of this will surprise you because you're living this every single day. But we're here to talk about what we're hearing from our customers who are in the manufacturing space all over the United States, and more importantly, how some of them are solving these problems. So we're going to jump right in.
Go.
All right, the big one, pain point number one, which is the elephant in the room everyone talks about. You and I hear it every single day, especially you, because I'm on the phone, but you're actually walking through these facilities every day and talking to them in real time. So the big one is we just can't find people. This has been the case for years, and I think a lot of our customers and clients have thought over time this pain point would go away, but it hasn't gone away. It's still a reality. So is that what you're still seeing? What are you seeing out there?
It doesn't matter the name on the building. You know, we work with, Fortune 500 companies that have 1 million square foot facilities. We also work with, facilities that are 25,000 square foot. It doesn't matter the name of the building. It's not just a labor shortage. It's the skills gap shortage. Got to talk with a guy yesterday. He was telling me, they live in Dyersville, Tennessee, and not a big population. And he's just not able to find anybody to even apply, let alone find the skills. They have 2 lines that they're able to run. And currently right now, he's only able to keep 1 line running because of not being able to find the skills to keep the 2 lines running.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think a lot of times I've talked to folks, sometimes they can't find labor in general, but sometimes they can find the general labor. They just can't find the skilled labor, which is the biggest problem they have. And even when they do find someone, get them to stick around, that's a bigger problem. So they'll get the bodies, but they can't stay. And I read in a survey in 2023, it said 56% of folks who worked in a manufacturing space were going to quit in the next 12 months. So over half were going to quit, expecting in 24. That was the bad news. The good news is it was only 28%.
Yeah.
So it was only about a third of the people who worked in these spaces quit. And what's the result? And we see this. The lines aren't running. Projects are falling behind. There's overtime. It's burning out the team. And in the end, production and quality suffer.
Yeah, I think that the companies are jeopardizing, their integrity and their team by just bringing bodies in, thinking it's going to help keep the lines running. And at the end of the day, they're finding out that's not working. So what they're trying to do is, bring a body in to upskill them, and the worker doesn't meet the needs of the facility. So the quits rates gets really high. And I think that's what you're alluding to there is they come in and then it knocks down the morale of the rest of the team. Yeah. The other workers get frustrated. They want to keep the lines running, and they're seeing that the talent coming in isn't helping them. They'd almost rather not have anybody.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think I've shared this in the past. I talked to a facility, and they made the point that we can find bodies and we can find well-intentioned, skilled bodies. It was a farming community. They go strong work ethic, great mechanical aptitude, but they don't have the skills needed, the specific skills needed. And that creates the problem, like you said, because others get frustrated because they're trying to keep things running, and it's difficult. And now they're trying to bring folks on who just don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yep. That's a real conversation I have on a weekly basis. I mean, I just had it yesterday, probably had it 3 times this week.
Yep. Right.
So.
All right. So that's number one. Let's talk about number 2. Another pain point that comes up constantly is the pressure to meet deadlines, because regardless of whether you have the bodies, you still have to meet the deadline. So what are manufacturers risking when they can't staff properly?
Well, ultimately their business, right? When you're talking to these guys and some of them they're co-packing for large name companies, so they'll feel the pressure coming down from, one of the big boys in the room. And if they're not able to meet their demands, obviously, one of those big guys is going to go look somewhere else to find somebody else to co-pack for them. So there's that pressure. And then obviously, you know, when you think about some of the sites that have, you know, they're owned through the whole organization, you know, there's that pressure from corporate. You know, if they're trying to get their product out the door and they can't keep the lines running, corporate will look at another site to help them meet the needs of their consumer.
Yeah. Yeah, I look at it, you know, it's the problem people know is there, but they don't want to really look at or quantify. I use the credit card bill after Christmas, you know, in January, like, oh, there it is. I don't want to open it up. I don't want to actually peel off the Band-Aid and look at the problem. If I don't look at it, it's not real. And I think the problem is it's not just we need more people. It's that we're losing money every day we don't have these people. It's like, I know I need bodies, but what is that really costing me? In downtime, cost food manufacturers anywhere from $3 million to $24 million a year, depending on the size of the facility and what they manufacture. But think about that. That's just downtime. $3 million to $24 million a year in lost revenue. And I know I've shared this. A facility in Texas, not a small town, but not a big town. And I said, you know, what is your downtime actually costing you? And he said, well, I know it costs me this much per minute per hour. I said, well, do you know what that costs per year? And he sat there for a second, pulled out his calculator and said, well, so far we're at $9 million.
Wow.
So yeah, it's, again, most of the facilities I've worked with, they will share their numbers. It's brutal and it's not getting better.
Yeah, I'll go back to the conversation I had yesterday. I ran through our pricing structure with him yesterday on the phone, went through the whole pricing structure, and I asked him specifically, I said, so with the numbers I just presented to you, if I brought you a guy for 6 months and knowing your downtime, did I cost you money, did I save you money, or did I make you?
Yep.
And he absolutely replied, you will make me money if your guy keeps me from having 2 downtimes in 6 months. So he went from thinking of the burden of it's costing me money to realizing it's going to make them more profitable.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think a lot of times they just look at the immediate dollars, but when you say, wow, 2 downtimes, which by the way, we know downtimes occur every day. Those lines aren't running. Those PMs aren't getting done, which is creating more problems down the line. So,
yeah, and those micro stops too are something that clients are starting to look into more and more frequently. I hear that more and more is they can look at a downtime where it's hours and hours in a day, or those micro stops when they add those up throughout the week, and going back to that root cause analysis of how to fix it, not just replacing the part that's broke, realizing why that part keeps getting broke. And that skill, that talent of finding that root cause analysis is real. That's the struggle that I'm hearing more and more. In doing this in 5.5 years, root cause analysis was not something I heard out of the jump. Mm-hmm. Now it's, how do I keep my lines running? Not just replace the part, like I said, but figure out why that part keeps breaking down.
All right, here's another one. Challenge that most people talk about, they realize is an issue, but they cannot measure it. Culture fit. Even when companies are able to actually find someone and hire them, they don't last. And that seems to be a problem in this industry. I know in a lot of industries, but specifically in this industry. And why do you think that is?
Why it's why the culture is such a big burden on the team?
Yeah, finding those folks to gel with the team as it sits.
Yeah. Before I kind of answer or try to give you an answer on that question, I will say I joke with all the clients, and you know it's very, and I definitely don't want to make it seem like it's you guys are doing anything wrong that are trying to find the talent. But the easiest thing for our team to do is find the skill. We can find and vet the skill. The hardest thing for us to do is working to guarantee that worker is going to mesh with your team. And I always tell everybody, if I had that one question to know that guy or gal that's going to show up is going to mesh with your team, show up every single day and punch in 5 minutes early and 5 minutes late, I'd have a line out my door all the way down to Texas. I don't have that question. I would love to find that question for everybody. But the culture is really, truly the hard part, because we kind of talked about it a little bit ago, is when you have an individual show up and that culture isn't there, may it be a very aggressive person. Maybe it's not somebody that wants to jump into the fire and take the lead and do things. Whatever that is in that culture fit, it brings down the other team. Yeah. It brings down the other team members. And those team members see that and they feel it. The first thing I think, and when you're talking about culture, is do they have a clear expectation of what they're supposed to be? That clear expectation, that clear driven vision of where the company is going and saying, hey, we're going to get there. This is how, and we're going to use those four, as Brett alludes to quite a bit, those four legs of the stool to get us there. And that is what truly will drive the company and drive the culture. You talk about the four stools. The four stools is, upbringing, upskilling your current team, getting them to where they need to go. The next one is leaning into your community as far as community colleges, finding those kids coming out, those guys and girls coming out of those community colleges that have the knowledge of the schooling, but not really the wrench turning, right? Then also the direct hire model, and then using the augmented force to create your culture and bring your culture to where you want it to go.
Is the skilled labor shortage hurting your company's bottom line? Skillwork is the premier staffing agency focusing exclusively on skilled labor. Our team of highly skilled workers augments your existing teams for elevated impact and decreased downtime. Partnering with hundreds of facilities in more than 30 states, we deploy our traveling industrial technicians to work for you on a contract basis. Our philosophy is simple: to honor God in all we do, bring respect back to the skilled trades, and positively impact those around us. For more information on how Skillwork can deliver the top labor talent you need, visit skillwork.com or call us at 402-447-7058. Call us today to see how Skillwork can work for you.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Thank you. I think, if you look at just the history of Skillwork itself, we've always been able to find the skills, to find the talent. I think when we've had a pretty high success rate, I think when we really started to catch our speed and improve it to another level, of the 1,000 applicants we'll receive this week, we give them those tests. Again, do they have the aptitude, mechanical, electrical, PLC, industrial safety? But then we start to implement the personality assessment. How well do they fit into your culture? Can they take direction? Can they play well with others? Because again, some highly skilled folks just don't want to take direction and don't want to be part of a team, and that's fine. But we can kind of vet those out. And then I encourage every one of our customers, when we get on these interviews and we let you talk to this individual, we say, we've vetted their skills. I would like you to find out if they're a fit for you, if they're going to gel with your team, because every team's different. Every facility knows exactly what they're looking for. They know why they're uniquely built, how they're uniquely built, and who's going to fit with that team. So I think when we made that shift a few years ago, that's when we really started to see a higher success rate. So
yeah, to piggyback off that, I think one of the things too that is very crucial to success of our client, which obviously leads to Skillwork success, right? When our clients succeed, we can succeed. Is when we adopted that discovery call process. When we sit down, we talked about the pain curve. Let's go through all of those things that we need to gather up front, slow it down at the beginning so we can speed up at the end of saying, hey, yeah, we're going to go through the skills. We're going to get those 5 must-have skill sets, 3 to 4 nice-to-haves. But that personality set that we want to hear from the people on the floor, the maintenance manager telling us, hey, I've got 5 type A guys on the floor right now. I can't have another type A guy out there because my team will just blow up. Those things are what help us get to that next step of really diving into making sure the culture that we're helping them get the culture they want.
yeah. Yeah, we're very cognizant of the fact that every one of our customers, these facilities, it's you have, most of the time you have 2 types of people. You have their maintenance team that has been there for 30, 40 years. They're nearing retirement, and they take pride in what they do, and they take pride in their facility. You can see it when you walk with them, and there's pride. This is what we've done. And now you're going to integrate somebody brand new. You've got to make sure culture fits there. Otherwise, it's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, that there is that big gap too. And when we're talking to the clients, they've got the guys that have been there 25, 30 years.
Yep.
But then when you talk to them about, well, where are you guys about the 10 to 15 mark? Don't have those guys. It goes from the 25 up to 30, and then it's 2 to 3 in 6 months. Yep. Right? There's that huge gap there, and bringing those new team members in, in this space, it's we're not sending them to to work at Skillwork internally, right? No. They're going out and working in a tough environment. So
yep. Yeah, and we tell our customers, every one of we have a lot of different customers, and one of the things we talk about with the candidates, the skilled workers, is this is what you're walking into. It's hot, it's cold, it's wet, it's dry. Here's what the maintenance manager is looking for in terms of a personality. So we try to vet that, but in the end, they got to talk to and kind of get in their head and see what's going on.
Yeah, that conversation is important. Like I said, we can do the skills, but just being able to talk to that person, get a better mindset. That's why we just don't send somebody to our clients. So got to get buy-in on both ways.
Yep. Okay, so there's some of the issues: labor shortage, downtime cost, culture fit, and that's all doom and gloom and bad news, right? It's like, oh no, but no, I think there are some things folks can do. So what is one thing that you see facilities can do right now to ease some of these pains?
One thing?
Start with one.
Start with one. Okay, one thing. Obviously, don't do it alone. Don't do it alone. Don't think, if you've been going down the road of and no offense to anybody out there that's got that sign up that says now hiring, and I show up to facilities and I see it and it's tethered and it's time for a new sign, and I'll joke around with my team members about that, and they get it and they say, yeah, it's been up there for 3 years, it's time to buy a new one. Understanding that it's not going to go away, and what are you going to do to augment your staff, right?
Mm-hmm.
How quickly can you get somebody there to alleviate the pain that your plant manager is feeling, your maintenance manager is feeling, your team members, your supervisors are feeling, and realizing, saying, hey, I got to try something new. We've been doing the same thing for the last 10 years, hence that flag out there that's tethered. We've been doing the same thing for 10 years and not getting the results we want. So taking that next step and exploring what other options are out there, right? Understanding what your team needs. First of all, you got to decide what your team needs and take on those new challenges of figuring out how to augment your staff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, but it's not funny. We're in Nebraska, and there is a facility, a large manufacturing facility, very common name. And I've driven by that facility and seen the same sign for more than 15 years. They haven't changed the sign. It's beat up, and we talk to them, and we know what their turnover rate, we know what they're struggling with. So I think that kind of leads into what I would say, which is you have to stop the bleeding up front. That labor shortage, that's where you have to stop. That's where you have to start, right? You have to stop the bleeding, because you can't keep asking employees to do more. You have to figure out a way to kind of ease the pain and slow that 28% resignation rate. The employees need help. Those 25, 30-year employees, they need help. So we've got to find a way to just stop the bleeding, because I think if you stop that initial bleeding, then everything else tends to work itself out. Those downtime costs, you can address your labor shortages. When your downtime costs start to go down, then your revenue goes up. Winning solves a lot of problems. And then the culture fit. When your hair isn't on fire and you're panicking, you can focus on the right candidate as opposed to the right now candidate. Because I think a lot of times there's this person, they may have some skills, they might be a fit, we're going to take a flyer and see what happens. So if you can stop that bleeding, it helps. And depending on the skill level, maintenance roles now, they're taking anywhere from several months to a year to find. The customers we talk to, how long have you been looking for this? I've been looking for this role for a year, because they just can't find them. So you've got to find a way to stop the bleeding up front to let everything else flow downstream.
Yeah, and go back to that conversation I keep bringing up from yesterday. The gentleman I talked to yesterday has had two postings for 6 months. 2 maintenance mechanic postings for 6 months. He's had 2 applicants. They're not a small company. They co-pack for a very large company. But in 6 months, he's only had 2 applicants, and he said those applicants weren't even worth interviewing, unfortunately for him. So that's the struggle with him is, it's real. They don't even get the applicant.
All right, so let me ask this. That leads into an interesting topic. I get asked this every time. How long will it take you to find me someone? So when you're talking to that individual or any other individual, and they ask that question, here's what we need, we're not getting applicants, how long is it going to take you to find me someone? What do you say?
Yeah. First of all, I always lean into setting expectations as far as what the skill set is they're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. So if they're looking for a journeyman licensed electrician in Minnesota that has no reciprocity, because our model is bringing people in from out of state to augment their workforce, that might take me a little bit longer to find.
Yep.
If it is a electromechanical technician in any state in the United States, I will be able to tell you that we could have boots on the ground if the client moves as quickly, because there's a little bit of response time from them as well, we're going to submit them candidates. Their response time is just as crucial because these workers are actively looking. So if their response time meets the needs of the worker, I can tell a client from date of work order signed to jobs opening to our client, 3 to 5 weeks, I will have boots on the ground. And in those 3 to 5 weeks, there'll be multiple interviews. We look at it, Skillwork, that one job opening will get 3 candidates put in it. So you're going to get 3 candidates. In a week, you'll have 3 candidates to interview. How quickly you move from there depends on, how quickly I can get boots on the ground. But boots on the ground is crucial. But the best thing I hear from our clients is that when our boots hit the ground, they're only on that first shift for a week, maximum 2. So that's how quickly our guys are going and make an impact on the team. It is by week 2, they're going to those off shifts and supporting the team where the biggest need is, because there's not a lot of supervisory help there. There's not a lot of skilled people sitting there, because who really wants to work second and third shift, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't have a lot of opportunities to fill first shift on the current job board. So getting those guys and how quickly they can get to that off shift is where I hear the most relief from my clients, telling me, hey, that is crucial. Thank you so much.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's interesting. Well, I say the same thing, depending if it's maintenance mechanics, multi-crafts, electricians, ammonia refrigeration, 3 to 5 weeks, and they look at me as if I'm lying. They're like, no way. I'm like, no, that's all we do. So
yeah. And I tell clients too, I'm like, yes, these are words that I'm saying. Right now, I haven't proven anything to you. And if the first couple candidates I send you, I don't match that, then I didn't fulfill my duty, and you can go ahead and fire me.
Yep.
So.
Perfect. All right. Well, so in closing, I would just say, whether you're looking for welders, good maintenance team, general maintenance, highly skilled workers, let's talk. Again, that's all we do here at Skillwork. So you can visit us at skillwork.com, or you can reach out directly, talk to one of us. We'd love to help any way we can.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. And if you're one of those manufacturers looking for help, you're not alone, and we're here for you.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next time here on the Skillwork Forum.
This is Brett Elliott, CEO and co-founder at Skillwork. Prior to starting Skillwork, I spent over 30 years in the food manufacturing space. From literally starting out cleaning the restrooms to becoming the maintenance manager, then the plant manager, to eventually becoming the president and owner, I've seen the manufacturing world from many perspectives. And like many of you, I've seen firsthand the growing need for higher skilled workers, while at the same time experiencing the shortage of this skilled talent. I started Skillwork to address that need. I knew the headhunter and the local temp agency models were not the solution. If you're experiencing the same shortage of talent at your facility, we would love to connect you with our team. Give us a call at 402-447-7058 or visit us online at skillwork.com.